What happens when you run out of thread? You're sewing along, the cone is now empty, your machine says, hey, I've got a thread break. There's no thread in the system on that needle. How do you recover from that? How do you get thread back into the system? I'm going to pull this off all the way out of the system. Not my favorite thing to do because now I have to get this back in the system. Again, what typically happens, you're sewing along, you're trying to use the last bit of thread on a cone and you let it go all the way out. Not my favorite way to go. Typically, if I don't have enough thread to get through the job, I will go ahead and pull this off, swap out, and pull the thread through, just because it's a little bit easier that way. This, a little more labor intensive. What I need to do is get it back through the system. To do that, I'm going to use monofilament from my operator's kit. Looks like this. Long thread of plastic. It is notched usually in both ends. Sometimes one end is a little bit easier to use than the other. So I'm going to look at that, make sure that's the one I'm planning on using. I'm going to place this cone over that thread guide and back down over that post. And then I'm going to feed this monofilament through that thread system. You can either go from the top down or the bottom up. I typically go from the bottom up. Watch this other end. This other end can unthread your needles, so I'm going to hold on to it as I feed this up into the system. And it will come out the top. And then I'm going to take this thread and slide it into this notch. Make sure it's held. And then I'm just going to pull this back through. All the way through. And now I unhook it. I put my monofilament away. And I can thread up just like my other needles. If you can't find your monofilament or you just don't want to worry with it, you can do something else. I'm going to pull this back out. And I'm going to feed the thread into the top of the tube just enough that it will stay on its own. And then I'm going to grab canned air. I'm going to aim at the top of the tube and it will feed thread out. It will move that thread through the system and spit out the front. It's pretty slick. And now, just like before, I am ready to thread up just like my other needles. Typically, I will pull some thread through and then lift this pinch roller, line it up on that V-notch, and then put that pinch roller back down because I like to have something to pull against. And now looking down the front of the machine, I'm going to go through the upper thread guide from top to bottom. Then I'm going to go down through the middle thread guide on the back right side of it. Grab that thread. I'm going to make sure that lines up on the right side of the take-up lever. Then I'm going to go under the thread sensor and then come back up through the middle thread guide on the front hole. Then I'm going to go through the take-up lever from right to left. Need a little bit more thread, so I'm going to lift that pinch roller and give myself a little bit more. I'm going to go back down through the middle thread guide in the last hole. That's the one on the back on the left. Go behind that thread sensor. I'm going to go down through the lower thread guide. And I'll line that up with that dampener. Make sure that's in place. And if my pinch roller's down, I can pull against this and it will almost slide into place. And now I just need to thread my needle. I'm going to close the grabber Adjustment and center key will move that back. That's going to move that thread back, be held in this kind of Velcro trap back here. I'm going to trim this up to the length of all the other threads, and then I'm going to kick that grabber back forward. Again, adjustment and center key will move that grabber back and forth, but now I am threaded up and I'm ready to go.